high school. How am I going to do this? How am I going to teach a high schooler? How am I going to teach him how to be an independent learner? I can't hold his hand anymore. What am I going to do?
You want to know how to teach your high schooler to be an independent learner? Say less. Today is all about how my high schooler organizes all of his work. Homeschool Mom has a way that I organize myself for high school, and I talked about it in my recent video, which I will link down below. But my high schooler has to have a certain level of organization in order for him to keep track of all of his tasks and activities, in order for him to progress throughout the day so that he's not wasting time. So I am going to show you all the things that my high schooler uses, and he has a lot of neat little tricks that maybe aren't necessarily organization, but are really cool teen tips, so stay tuned. My name is Rachel, and I have been homeschooling now for almost 9 years. I have a 16-year-old this year. Next year, he will be a junior in high school. I also have a middle schooler, going to be 8th grade, and I have a little one going to be in 4th grade. So if you like homeschool content, if you like homeschool planning, if you want to know about high school, I have so much content, and anything that I mention in this video, I will link in the description below. So first, this is sort of pre-high school tip. When my son entered junior high, we already started working towards him managing his own workload, giving him, here's all the things that you need to do every day, but you need to plan out your week. So I got him started on a student planner when he was in 7th grade. And at that point in time, I met with him on a weekly basis, and we looked at all the things that he needed to get done for the week, and I showed him how to kind of pace himself out. I also taught him to time box himself, because we don't want our homeschoolers homeschooling for 8 hours a day. And there are certain subjects that might take longer than 45 minutes to an hour. So those are the things really that I said. Set a timer after an hour, stop working, and we will adjust as needed. So I found a fairly inexpensive student planner that was exactly what we needed, and we have been using it now for 4 years. So let me give you a glimpse. So this is the Mardel student planner, and they usually have 2 designs a year, one for a boy and one for a girl. So this is the current year's planner. And I did a video showing the inside of this, and it really doesn't change a whole lot from year to year. So check out this video if you want a more detailed look at the inside. But for the most part, my son, he plans out his work, and then he uses a highlighter as his checkbox. So they have checkboxes here. You could check that off. But very early on, like when I was even doing homeschool planning before he had his own planner, this is how I check things off. So he's just followed that habit there. So he plans out his own work. He puts his own subjects here on the side. And he decides how he's going to get it done. And as you can see on this day, it says work. So he knew that he was working this day, so he wasn't going to plan stuff. So this just helps him keep on track, keep on top of everything. And then he writes the things that aren't a daily activity, but he just needs to make sure he completes during the week over here. Now, one thing about last year's and the last 4 years of Mardel student planners and the current one, you guys, I am very sad to say, I think the quality has gone down. I cannot remember the price of these planners. I want to say that they are around $20, but you usually have to pay shipping unless you have a Mardel store near you, which I do not. But you can see from last year's planner to this year, there is a significant decrease in thickness, which means that the quality of the paper has gone down, because everything in this planner is pretty much exactly the same. This is like, that must be the end of the year. So they have a monthly calendar, and then they have your monthly or your weekly pages. But this paper is so, this is like regular paper. I mean, this is a cheaper planner, whereas before, this paper is so much thicker and weightier. It's a noticeable difference. I wish you can hear by the sound there. You can tell. And plus, I just bent the page right there just by flipping it. You can see that in this page. It's a much more sturdier, thicker quality. So the price is the same, but the quality has gone down. And they also changed the coil. So this was a decent plastic coil before, and now it's this kind of coil. It feels strong, but my experience with these sorts of coils is they do get bent. So it'll probably be fine for my son because he just leaves it on his computer desk and he just goes week to week. He'll look at what he did, what he accomplished this week, and then he literally just goes to the next week and plans out his next lessons. Now, my son really isn't into a whole lot of fluff, even though this planner has these extra pages for future planning, and at the beginning of the month it has this sort of stuff. He doesn't tend to do this, but if you have a child who likes to journal and likes to fill out this kind of stuff, they do have these pages on every single month, which I think are kind of fun. Comment below, is your student, whether they're high schooler, middle schooler, or elementary, are they already working independently? Like, can you see them progressing on to independence, or do you think they're going to need more help managing their schoolwork? So another thing that I want to mention that helps him with his planning is a lot of his curriculum is online. So while I made him a syllabus for the year which said, you know, for this week accomplish these assignments and the next week accomplish these, he hasn't really used that. I will show it to you anyway. But because so much of his curriculum is online, the online apps or websites, they kind of have their own little checklist, especially Compass Classroom. So we use Compass Classroom for both Latin and history, and next year we will be doing more Compass Classroom. They have an awesome membership. If you want to do multiple classes, their membership is like for a year and you have access to everything they have to offer. So it's really the best deal if you're doing 3 or 4 classes, or if you have multiple children who might be doing a bunch of different classes. So check out their membership. They do offer 1 month for free. But I also showed a glimpse inside that app and how it works in his day in the life. So check out his day in the life for another close look at the Compass Classroom. But he can take his Latin quizzes online and it grades it for him, and it has all the assignments there which he can digitally check off, but he still will be putting them in here also because he's like mama. He can do things digitally, but he also likes to write them down so he can have a big overview of what he needs to do for the week. And then Shorman Math is his other online class, math, the same thing. Like, he just goes through lesson by lesson. Those online video classes, they do help your homeschooler pace themselves. One of the other thing I got my son, now this is a really nice journal, and I got this for him to take to church, to take notes at church, or to, like, if he's doing a Bible study, we do a weekly Bible study with my parents, and so he does all of his Bible note taking and any sort of personal Bible study notes in this nicer journal, and I think that kind of exemplifies how we should treat Bible study. It should be nicer than just a regular spiral notebook. So plus it kind of sticks out, like he can find it right away, versus just a pile of spiral notebooks that he's not sure which subject is which. So the rest of his organization, I want to take you to his room and show you how he keeps his curriculum organized from subject to subject. So come with me. Okay, so he used to have his computer and he used to work here at this desk, but he has recently moved into where my husband works, so they have their own little lab space. But this is how he organizes all of his curriculum. I bought him this drawer unit from IKEA, so you can see here that there are 6 drawers. So up here is his history stuff. He's got IW and science over here. His literature stuff, supplies, Latin, And down here is just, I guess, random computer stuff. So this is what I was talking about at the beginning of the year. I made him up this binder. Here, let me put it up here. Now, I told him he can organize and plan out his work however he wants, because that's what we want, right? We want independence. But this is kind of how I helped him figure out how long this was going to take. So see, for finance, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 5, day 6, and so on and so forth. But he's doing it differently, and that's perfectly fine. But if you have a child who needs more direction, then this wasn't hard to put together. And really, in any curriculum, you could probably just make a copy of the scope and sequence and draw lines if you wanted to make it even easier. And then in my last video, I talked about our one-on-one, so this helps him keep it in sync with me. This was kind of the overall meeting agenda that I gave to him and gave him an idea for what we would be doing. Okay, so in here, I had helped him schedule out how he was going to do his literature. IEW, I scheduled it a little bit differently for him than how they did in the curriculum. I'm not sure if he's following this at all, though. He actually got a late start on IEW. And then the same thing for history. And I talked about this when I talked about my mom binder. Here's what else I gave him for history up front. So when this gives him an overall view here. This is from the curriculum itself, but it gives him an overall view of the projects and what's coming up. So choose reformational masterwork and begin research. So that kind of helps him keep track of that. But I think this is also in the app, so this is why he's not using it. But one more thing I want to show you here that I gave him up front was these grading sheets. This is from the teacher's guide, but I gave it to my son so that he would know how he was going to be graded on the portfolio and some of these larger projects, just so he knows what the requirements are and what I'm going to be looking for when I grade them. So if you have projects, this will be very helpful for your student, but you know what else will be helpful for making sure expectations are clear for them is this one-on-one meeting that I talked about in that last video. So check it out in the description below. All right, so he has one of these binders. These are, what are they? They're about 1.5 inch, 1 inch binders. I don't know what exactly they're called, but I have a bunch of these. I've talked about them. These are part of my favorite homeschool supplies. You guys should know this by now. Why? Because of this rubber binding, and it lasts forever. But I pick these up at garage sales. Anytime I see them on sale, I snag them all. Well, my son has one of these for each of his subjects. This is his science subjects, and I printed all of this out for him. And guess what? He doesn't need it because it's all online. But if he did need it, it would be here in this handy binder, because he has these binders for every subject. So his literature guides, he did need this, right? Because we did Uncle Tom's Cabin from Prodigy Press, and so that was a digital download, and we needed to print this out for him. And then his Call of the Wild literary guide and his Treasure Island literary guide here. So highly recommend these binders. They're very durable and they're pretty colors too. Give me a thumbs up if you need these binders. These binders are so awesome. I feel like I talk about them in like every other video, but they are so worth the cost. I discovered them our second year of homeschooling, so probably 4 or 5 of our binders are that old, 7 years old, and they don't have any, well, they don't really have signs of wear and tear. They are just that durable, so well worth the cost. So as you can see here from Compass Classroom, they have all the checklists. They have it by lesson, the drop-down menu here that says within this lesson, these are all the assignments that need to be done. You check box them when they're done, and these are also clickable links. So if he has a video to watch, he clicks the link and the video can be watched here. If it's a reading assignment, he clicks the link and he can read it online, although my son likes that I printed it out for him because he would rather read from paper. And same thing, if it's a quiz, he can take the quiz there online and it will automatically grade it for him. And then he just informs me what the grade is and I keep track of it. If you have a lot of online courses, rather than always having to log into them every time, what my son does is he bookmarks them and then he threw them into this folder called School. They are easily accessible. So one of the other tricks that my son does to keep himself on task during the day is he uses these headphones, which actually are almost sound canceling. I mean, like when he has them on and I say,
"Hey Drew,"
he can't hear what I'm saying. He always has to take it off of his ear because it just cancels out all the other sounds so well. Highly recommend these headphones if you have a noisy house and your student needs to concentrate. When my kids were younger, I got them in the habit of when we needed to put our heads down and concentrate, especially on schoolwork, I played classical music because I heard somewhere that classical music not only makes you smarter, but it helps you concentrate. It doesn't like interrupt your brain waves from thinking like I think rock and roll music would. I can't concentrate when that stuff's playing, and I also can't concentrate when music with words is playing. Who's with me? Because I end up singing along. But classical music really does help you study, and so my son has just always been drawn to that. And during the school day, he listens to classical music on his headphones, unless he's watching a video, of course. But if he's just doing his math homework or he's just taking a Latin quiz, the classical music is playing. If your student needs more help managing their schoolwork, I did a video my son's freshman year. I made some things to help him think through how his week was going to go. He did not use it this year because having gone through high school once, he has his own workflow now. But if you need help training your student on how to manage their own time, how to manage their workload, or even maybe you need to keep track of hours because you're worried maybe this class isn't going to be a full credit, or is it going to be a half a credit? Credits are going to be based on whether or not you finish a curriculum or 80% through a curriculum, or they're going to be based on hours. So you might want to keep track of hours. So check out this video right here for some of the things I did to help my son manage his time. If you watched his day in the life video, I mentioned one of the unsung heroes of the teenage years that I just think is a fantastic alternative to a phone, and that is the Apple Watch. I'm just not comfortable giving him a phone right now with all the things that you would have access to on a phone. But the Apple Watch, I want to say it costs us an extra $20 a month to give him cell service through his watch. So he can make, I don't have my watch on, but he can make phone calls through the watch. He can speak to it. If you don't have an Apple Watch, I'm not sure if you realize this. And he can text through it. He can voice text, so he doesn't have to do one little finger at a time. He can hit the microphone and voice text. So it's working out great. The only drawback to only using the Apple Watch is Google Maps. When they get their driver's license, if they don't know where things are, he's concerned about that. But we used our old Garmin GPS in the car and said, there you go, son. And back in our day, we either used MapQuest or we learned how to get around our town, and yeah, sure, we got lost a few times. But I digress. The Apple Watch is a fantastic alternative to a phone, and here's the other thing that he uses it for. And who else can relate to this? Comment below. You're working and working and working, and all of a sudden you realize that you've been sitting down for 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours.
Every second you sit there is an hour off your life.
And your back is stiff and your knees are stiff. Well, my son was the same way because he has no trouble focusing. So he sets periodic timers on his watch, and when the timer goes off, he gets up, he takes his break, he gives himself a little stretch. My son does that all on his own. I do not do that, but fantastic idea. I might have to implement myself with my elementary age girls. If you want to see how I organize all the high school things as homeschool mom, check out this video right here. For more high school hints and tips, this playlist right here. And until next time, bye.